Welcome to the Conservation Commission's November 28th, 2023 meeting. We have a quorum in attendance, and we're going to go ahead and get started.
And so here comes Chase.
Oh, perfect.
Sorry about that. I had some computer problems. Someone's got their hand up. Owner?
Owner is not muted, so owner should be able to talk. I'm not sure. We're not sure who it is.
Okay.
And what's going on.
Okay.
So.
Andrew, you open the meeting for us. So I guess, Amy, why don't we jump into the, well, I guess first let's do the minutes. Sorry, I'm a little flustered here.
Yeah.
Minutes from the November 14th, 2023 meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
Kyle sent in his comments.
Yeah, nothing substantial. I think I changed the date and added a sentence maybe.
Yep.
Most.
Okay. If nothing else, look for a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Sure. I'll make a motion that we approve the Conservation Commission meetings from our November 14th, 2023 meeting as amended.
I'll second.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Andrew, roll call vote.
Roll call vote. Ed. Ed, you're on a...
I have no idea.
Oh,
Ed is owner. I heard it.
What is that?
Ed, you're still
Ed,
muted, I guess.
Yeah, Ed, you're on mute.
I am sorry. I was not at the last meeting, so I will abstain.
Okay, Michael?
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle?
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Carl?
Kyle Malberg, aye.
Chase?
Chase Garbeg, aye.
And myself, aye. It is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 to 1. 5 yeas and 1 abstention.
and I'm not sure who owner is, but I think we can hear you now, but you're
Can you? It's Karen.
All right.
Can you hear me? It's Karen.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank God. The guys on LTC, they couldn't hear me. They thought I was the owner. I don't know how that happened. Sal is trying to get in too, and he can't get in. So
Okay.
maybe he's
present.
Something kooky going on.
So what we're going to do right now, though, Karen, you're not on until later, is we're going to demote you down to an attendee so we can get through the rest of it. And then when your agenda item is up, we'll pull you back in as a panelist.
I get it, but just know that Sal can't get on either.
No, he is present in the attendees.
Okay, good.
He's
All right.
where he should be.
Sal, you're all set, right?
Amy or Dave, can you move Karen, who's listed as owner, back to an attendee? Thanks. Did we get through that vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
I agree. Yeah. Yes, we did.
Okay, good. Now the administrative agenda. Amy, you want to take us through those?
Did you want to get into the tree protection policy? No.
I think if anyone's got comments, we could hear them. I am personally delinquent there and have looked at it enough to think that there's a lot to work with there, but I also have some comments that I haven't prepared. So
why don't I make it maybe an agenda item for either the 5th or the 19th? And maybe if you want me to decide, if we decide that at the end of this meeting to see who's being continued to the 5th and what kind of meeting it looks like.
I think that makes sense.
There's nothing new right now for the 5th, or actually there's a couple certificates, but
I think to the extent that we anticipate having a robust discussion there, we may want to notify the Shade Tree Committee. Not that we couldn't do different things, but to the extent that we can harmonize where we're going, it might not be a bad idea.
Yeah.
Is everyone okay with us sharing the draft of the policy with the Shade Tree Committee?
Yep.
Okay.
And then the Lakeshore compliance guidance, Mike. I don't know if you still wanted to try to do something with that, or how everybody wants to move ahead on that, or not move ahead on it.
Yeah, no, I still intend to do that, and I just have to get the time carved out.
Okay. I'll keep it on the agenda, and we'll just do it or not do it.
That'll keep me feeling guilty. That sounds good.
Oh, that's my personal goal.
I've been there, Mike. I've been there.
Right? But you'll notice that now we have a tree protection policy that other people can feel guilty about, not Kyle.
Because otherwise I'll forget about it myself. So fair enough. We have a request for a certificate of compliance for 32 Middlesex, which was basically waiting for grass to grow and shrubs to survive, and it has been all set. So I think it's ready for a certificate.
We got a motion for that then?
Make a motion that we approve certificate of compliance for 32 Middlesex, Mass DP number 204-0820.
I'll second.
All right. Roll call vote. Ed,
Ed Foltz, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxwell, aye.
Carl,
Tom Melberg, aye.
Chase,
Chase Kirby guy.
and myself. It's unanimous.
Very good. Thank you.
And since you have a couple minutes, there's a couple other things I wanted to add. The Fort Pond aquatic invasive plant management folks are coming back in for a request for an extension for the next 3 years. I assumed you might want to hear a summary from them and ask them to come in, or if you just want to do the extension.
I'd like to hear where they're at. How things went for the last season.
Kind of what I assumed. So just double checking that. Northbridge are set to come in. Now I can't remember, it's the 5th or the 19th, but anyway, they're set to come in to talk about the well data over at Amazon. If anybody had any specific comments or questions you want to give them ahead of time, so they have heads up, just let me know and I'll pass them along. So they can, if they have anything, and I did pass it on to the water department also, so they've got it. And that was it.
Two other things to toss your way. One, Amy, did you or Tim get a chance to go take a look at 242 King?
Yeah, we went out we went out Monday. We went out Monday. We had a Phragmites call today, and I think what Sarah had taken the picture of, it took me a second to realize, was a dewatering, and the dewatering pipe had a leak in it. So they've replaced that. The basin is absolutely full, and it actually looks like it's overtopping in a slightly new area. The water is clear, and the NTUs are actually under 1 right now. But it's still a lot of water running across the ground out there. And I was trying to get an idea of how long they're going, because if that thing starts freezing, they got a real problem.
I mean, they would also have a real problem just if there was a significant precipitation event. I mean, we've had some rain, but it hasn't even been crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't that much, Sunday night, but enough to cause a problem there, apparently.
Well, especially because that was on Friday that Sarah went out there, and it hadn't.
Oh, jeez, that's even worse.
Yeah.
I thought they said flows were going to reduce now that they were out of the hole and just building. Like, that doesn't seem to be the case then. If
they're still very low. It's full of gravel, and they're starting to do the concrete forms and stuff.
Right, but they're not disturbing anything. They made it sound like they anticipated flow to drop. At a minimum, the clarity of the water would increase, but they're expecting flows to. Yeah,
I didn't ask them specifically about the flows yesterday when Tim was out there, like mid last week. They said the flows had come down, but I think they might be back up again. They just got to depress the water where they're working, but at least it's clean now, or definitely clean, because it's going through the gravel. They're pumping out the gravel.
I mean, I guess where this could get squarely on us is if there's a major precipitation event coming, or that thing just freezes into a solid block. Both of those are going to be bad.
Yep.
Amy, would you follow up with them and essentially let them know that it is our expectation that if there's a major precipitation event coming, they're going to have to curtail their dewatering to make sure that they've got adequate capacity to deal with the precipitation.
Yeah, and then when they get back to it, they're gonna have to stretch it out over longer. That's
That's fine. That shouldn't be a problem. I find it hard to believe that those frac tanks are full, just based on how they told us they're operating.
A frac tank costs $1,000 a week. I just can't figure it out. Get 6 more frac tanks and be done with it.
I'll tell you what, I think, I'm not sure if it's gonna be Corey or Matt Silverman here later. I did give him a heads up that there might be a sidebar on 242 King when they're in here, so you can, depending on how the timing goes, you can also.
Okay.
Then.
That sounds good.
There is supposed to be more rain this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yes, that's true. And it's over the weekend too, so.
Right. There won't be anything going on there. It's just going to rain.
Well, but they've got their pumps running continuously, Ed. My concern is I'd rather have it precipitate when there are people there. And if they need to staff it over the weekend, that's not the town's problem. That's contractor's problem.
No, I was suggesting that because it's going to rain and they're already near the top of their capacity.
Yeah, they're going to run the risk of overtopping them. Okay, maybe we'll have a little sidebar with Corey. One other minor administrative item, just so everyone's up to speed. I am meeting with Amy and Ryan Ferrara and several other folks. Next Tuesday?
The 7th?
Yeah, 7th, whenever that is, to discuss our budget. So in lieu of doing sort of a budget Saturday, it sounds like some of these things are being handled earlier, maybe without everybody in the room. So I'll report back as to how that goes. Any other administrative items from anyone else?
I just want to give Amy some kudos. I don't know if it was you and Tim or just you, but decorated a tree for the Littletown tree hunt. Looks great out in Brownwoods. So
That was just me. I didn't drag Tim into that one.
Okay. So it's 7:45. We're going to open up the public meeting request for determination of applicability, 18 Mill Lane. Looks like we don't have a Mass DEP number. Is that right, Amy?
Okay, yeah, here comes Matt. It's an RDA.
It's an RDA, right?
Oh, an RDA. Yeah. Words are right on the page. Okay, Matt, you should be able to unmute yourself. If you can do that, then you can take us through this RDA.
Good evening, folks. If I could share my screen.
Please?
Yes, please do.
So what I have is a request for determination for the installation of a septic system at 18 Mill Lane. This is going to replace the existing leach field that's in place, which is right here in this dotted circle. We actually have 2 sections of wetlands where there's buffer zone nearby. You have a section of wetland that was right here. It then dives back. So your buffer zone is right here. And then you have a section of wetland here, going up to one of the abutting properties. The actual edge of buffer zone is here. So what we have for disturbance in the buffer zone is a total of 151 square feet. At the closest point with the overdig and some of the grading, it comes to about 91 feet to the wetland area. The edge of the leach field is 93, but when you factor in the overdig here, it goes to 91. It's actually fairly simple. It's all on existing lawn. There's no trees to be removed. None of that. It's existing lawn now. It will go back to existing lawn when it's done. That's basically it.
Comment. Ready? Anything else you want to cover, Matt, or should I open it up?
Well, I mean, here's your buffer zone. You've got the tank, you've got this, and you've got just this portion of the leach field that's in the buffer zone. So it's a very small disturbance that's actually in the buffer zone. This side, any work on the septic system is outside of the buffer zone, which is the majority of the leach field. That's it, really.
Say that again. Any work on the
So essentially, this part of the leach field right here is out of the buffer zone. It's out of this buffer zone. It's out of this buffer zone. So the work that's in the buffer zone is coming off of this existing tank with a main, the tank here, which part of it creeps out of the buffer zone, and then just this portion of the leach field here. That's it. Totals about 151 square feet.
Hey, Matt, was the former failed septic system?
That's correct. Oh, thank you for reminding me. It does have Board of Health approval. That was actually given at the October 25th meeting.
So the former septic system was a failure, correct?
Correct.
And 91 feet away, I don't have a problem. But it's my opinion.
Matt, are you doing anything with the failed system? Does that have to be excavated at all, or are you
Just
leaving
being
it in
left
place? Okay. Any other comments from the commission? I tend to agree with you, Carl. Seems reasonable.
Nothing from me.
Matt, is that a line of erosion control I see between the wetlands in your? There's a stone wall. Are there any proposed erosion controls?
I did put in my narrative that erosion controls would be placed on this side of the area, and it would be no closer than 75 feet to the edge of wet.
Just out of curiosity, is there a reason why you didn't move it over the 7 feet or whatever to take the leach field out of the, was it primarily because you're staying where you were already?
Well, the entirety of the original leach field is in, excuse me, in the buffer zone.
Mhm.
We've reduced the amount that's in the buffer zone by quite a bit, like at least 60%. To move it over any further would actually wind up blocking the overland flow path going down the back of the hill. There's another wetland in the back that's well away, well more than 100 feet. And it would have just blocked all the flow paths going, and it would have required a lot more of extensive groundwork. This way, it minimizes the groundwork.
Yeah, fair enough.
That does, though, Matt, accentuate the need for erosion controls. If you're only looking at erosion controls, assume north is up here to the northwest. Let's make sure when you do this that you get erosion controls really all the way around this, please.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. So we're like, if you tie it into the garage around, that looks like a pretty steep slope around the right side of this plan.
Okay, not a problem. I mean, if you want, it's just a suggestion. You could add a condition into a negative determination that the erosion controls would be inspected prior to construction.
Yep, I think that's a reasonable direction.
Boilerplate. Yep, I agree.
Anyone else have any other comments? I think we could
Not for
probably
me, no.
take a motion for a negative determination with a condition.
Yeah, sure. I'll make a motion that we issue a negative determination of applicability number 3 for 18 Mill Lane, US 35-22-0 with the conditions as stated.
Second,
All right, roll call vote. Ed,
both sides.
Kyle,
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase,
Chase Gerwig, aye.
Michael,
Michael Livingston, aye.
and myself, I. It's unanimous.
Thank you, guys. Nice to see you again. Hope to see you soon. Take care.
Take care,
Thanks,
Matt.
Matt. Good to see you again.
Good night, Matt.
Good night, guys.
So we got ourselves a little predicament here that our next agenda item doesn't start for 7 minutes, and for whatever
no.
reason, we've actually gotten
Sorry, Carolyn.
through our administrative. Hey, Carol.
I was shocked to see how short that administrative discussion list was.
Right?
Not complaining, Amy. I was just surprised.
No, you guys knocked it out of the park the last time, so
I do think, I mean, we can use the 7 minutes to some positive effect if anyone has read the tree policy. I wouldn't mind looking at that, or Kyle, to the extent that there are things that you think people need to pay particular attention to. I don't know
Yeah,
if that's
actually,
worthwhile discussing.
If you don't mind, I'd take a couple minutes. There is something that I would like to
You
kind
can
of
have
point
exactly
your
7.
perfect. I would like to, let's see. So I do have the option to share screen here. Oh, perfect. And it's at the spot I wanted to talk about. I went very rogue with this mitigation portion, just outlining some thoughts. And by no means is this what I expect it to be in the end when we start talking about replacement of certain size trees, or this could just be replacement of any tree. I tried to break it up a little bit from the size of tree being removed with the replacement ratios. Did kind of put the catch-all down at the bottom here that it really doesn't matter what's being reviewed. The conservation will have the kind of final say in some sort of ratio on the type and size. But feel free to redline through all this and make some different suggestions or edits. But this is where there's plenty of other places for input, but this is one that I definitely took a stab at the dark.
Well, and I'm glad you brought this up, Kyle, because one of the things that I want to contemplate as a commission is mitigation when we can't replant on the property. Like, what does that look like? Are we willing to entertain that? I don't know. I only skimmed through this. I don't know if you would.
Yeah, I do have this paragraph here. So yes, I did start to think that. That there would be a payment made to the Shade Tree Committee. But again, we can definitely dive into this, add more detail to it, or change where that money goes for that matter. I think that's what we had been doing, if I recall correctly. That's where the money from Amazon went. Didn't it go to the Shade Tree, or did it?
That wasn't a mitigation requirement. That was, they volunteered that. So it was a little bit of a weird thing. Because I was getting a little antsy about requiring payments. Because they put money also towards Browns Woods.
Right. Okay.
The issue is, though, I mean, if we think like to projects in front of us right now, there are some scenarios where trees may come down that it doesn't make sense to replant right where they've come down.
Yep.
That's kind of what we saw yesterday, right, Amy? Some trees where the well site was going to be.
Right. Yep. And if you get another, Kay or Durkee, the trees are coming down. It is, once you have a house there, it's hard to find a place to put something back.
Right. I guess I thought that was what happened at Amazon. Was we're putting up this warehouse in a parking lot, and there's nowhere else for us to put trees. So,
but Amy, I think what you're saying though is that is functionally what happened. It's just a distinction between volunteering and requiring.
Yeah,
I did not put it in order conditions.
You're right. We didn't have anything substantial, I guess, or something like this in place. So we certainly wasn't as big of a push to stop cutting trees down at the time with that project. We weren't happy to see them go, obviously, but
yeah, exactly. Well, and over at what's the one on Great Road that they haven't even started yet? The 3 or 4 properties, and they replaced the trees in the area as well as through the parking lot. Frankly.
Oh, right.
The bank.
Could this be worded as an alternative rather than a requirement?
However it's worded, I think it needs to emphasize that we want the trees back on the property, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with that. I think we don't want to give them that out where they can just throw some cash at it to put trees somewhere. I think we would like to see if we can get trees back in on the same property. That would be ideal, right?
And that's where I think we control it with the dollar value, right? If it economically is much more favorable to put them back in place, good. I'm not sure $250 gets that job done.
No, and I agree. I think that's what I think what we need to say is it only if site conditions don't allow for replacement of trees can you go to this $250. And you're right. Maybe that number isn't right. Again, I just
maybe
threw a piece of something at the wall.
maybe add if site conditions don't allow for replacement of trees as determined by the commission, and then I'd raise that to $500 myself. But
Amy, in the intervening, week or two between now and our next meeting, do you think you or Tim could take a look at other town tree policies that have to see if they've got any financial piece like this? Or Kyle, maybe you did. I'd
might
be
have gotten
interested
that.
to know.
I'll double check. I think I might have gotten that number from one of the other ones that I had been looking at.
Is that $250 per tree?
That's what I was just thinking as I said that I think it would have
Yeah,
to
I was
be
going to say the
per
same
tree, right?
thing.
Again, and I also don't know how much a sapling or tree costs. So
With
we can have that
installation.
discussion.
At some point, we'll probably need to run all this by town council, I think.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We're starting here right internally, and by no means we're putting this in place until it gets town council approval.
and it does want to say per tree because it's not clear right now.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think that's interesting language. I'm glad there's something in there to that effect, and then we can work it from there. But
yeah, right.
Okay, cool. Well, I think that was actually a very good use of 7 minutes.
Yeah.
So, what we're going to do now is open up the public hearing for the notice of intent Mill Road for Boston gas line replacement. Looks like we still don't have a Mass DEP file number. Carolyn, is that you?
That's me.
Sorry to hold you off there for 7 minutes.
No, that seemed productive, so I'm glad. Hello, everyone. My name is Carolyn Gorse from BSC Group. I'm here to represent the Boston Gas Company, the applicant for their notice of intent for the replacement of an underground gas main along Mill Road in Littleton. Would you like me to share my screen and show you the maps that we included in our notice of intent?
Yes, please. That would make it a lot easier for us to start to understand what we're doing here.
All right. Can you see that?
Yes, we can.
All right. As you mentioned, the DEP file number hasn't been issued yet. Did I hear you say that there would be a meeting next week, potentially?
Yes.
Okay. So then would this get continued to next week, assuming that we have a file number by then?
Let's, I think, probably see where the discussion goes. If the commission wants something that you can't do by the 5th, and then at the end of the discussion, figure out whether to continue to the 5th or 19th.
Sounds good. All right. So this gas main in question was built in 1990 and recently identified as needing to be replaced by the Boston Gas Company's engineering team. The subject of the notice of intent, this section here where the gas main replacement crosses Mill Pond across Mill Road, is part of a larger project to replace the gas mains further to the west here from 49 to 80 King Street and 2 to 72 Mill Road in Littleton. And let's see. So this is currently located beneath the roadway where it crosses Mill Pond, and where Mill Pond is conveyed through a culvert right there. Boston Gas Company has been methodically replacing their old cast iron gas mains with plastic in order to upgrade the safety and longevity of those lines, especially where they cross bodies of water. Boston Gas is proposing to conduct the replacement of this line, connect it to the existing lines on the far east and west side of the project. And then they will be abandoning the existing lines in place where they are currently located. That's shown in a gray and white dashed line is where the existing line is to be abandoned. And then the yellow and white dashed line is the new replacement gas main. And here where it's orange and purple is where they're proposing to install it deeper than the existing gas main via horizontal directional drilling in order to go around this culvert and just to be deeper where the water crosses beneath the road here. So this horizontal directional drilling involves a hole to be drilled at either end, shown by these red boxes. The pipeline itself will go down at an angle from the entry and exit pits and then flatten out horizontally underneath the culvert underneath this middle section of the gas main and then come back up at an angle to the exit pit. This is done at a depth far enough below the base of this culvert, typically, so that the structural integrity remains intact. In this case, it's about 5 feet below the footings of the culvert, so quite deep. And this 4-inch diameter replacement gas main will be pulled through the drilled pathway from the entry pit on this northwestern side to the exit pit on the southeastern side. And you'll notice the dark blue lines and light green lines. Those are the bank of the mill pond and bordering vegetated wetlands delineated by BSC Group in July of 2023. All of the work itself is limited to the footprint of the existing public road. This work is located within the FEMA floodplain, aka bordering land subject to flooding, 200-foot riverfront area. That riverfront area is associated with the perennial stream that's off of Millbrook over to the east here. Also the 100-foot buffer zone to inland bank and bordering vegetated wetland. The new gas line will be installed beneath land under water bodies and waterways at this culvert crossing specifically. Then the replacement work up to the northeast of the crossing, where it's not associated with this new horizontal directional drilled installment. Everything that's just straight trench replacement can be considered an exempt utility maintenance activity under the Wetlands Protection Act, as well as the Littleton Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Section 171-6. And then again, since all the work is proposed beneath the roadway, we don't really have any impacts long-term proposed to any of the resource areas that overlap with the roadway or the flood storage capacity of the floodplain in this area. Floodplain is denoted by this translucent blue layer here. We detailed in Section 5 of the narrative how this work conforms with the performance standards of land under water bodies and waterways, riverfront area, bordering land subject to flooding. And some of the best management practices will include the installation of erosion and sediment controls along the roadway and surrounding the entry and exit pits. Typically, there's straw wattles installed along the edge of the roadway. Where the horizontal directional drilling is occurring, where equipment is going to be moving back and forth. And then around the entry and exit pits, it's typically something like compost socks that can lay flatter against the ground. And let's see. So the horizontal directional drilling will be obviously closely monitored by the crews while that's occurring. Usually takes a day or two for something this size. I would imagine only about a day or two of actual drilling and then another few days to pull the pipeline through that drilled pathway. And the fluid that they use in the drilling process to lubricate is typically sodium bentonite. They do not use surfactants. And in the unlikely event of an inadvertent return of that drilling fluid, we have included a copy of the standard contingency plan, but again, that is very rare. National Grid Boston Gas Company keeps spill kits and additional erosion controls on hand at all times. And BSC provides crews with an environmental field review and training before the work begins to review all of the permits that are associated with the project, all of the resource areas, everything they need to keep in mind while they're doing the work itself. Additionally, we don't stage or leave any equipment overnight in any of the wetland resource areas. The staging is typically not identified the location exactly until the work starts. But we can provide that information to you when that is determined. And then some other non-environmental permits that are associated with this project will include a road opening permit, Mass DOT permit. And at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Karen. I'll turn it over to, well, actually, before we turn it over to the commission, Amy, we did get some comments from Mass DEP. Is that correct?
No, we didn't get anything from Mass DOT on this one, but I will gonna say, since this is gonna come up at one of the next meetings, is that DEP had commented about the horizontal directional drilling and submitting a monitoring and cleanup plan as part of the notice of intent, which they did for this one.
Okay. Sorry, I got those mixed up.
So that, yeah, that comment applies to this project too, I would assume.
Okay, I'll turn it over to the commission. Comments, questions? It's quiet. I've got a few. I'm going to lead off then.
All right.
First thing, Carolyn, you said no staging of equipment. Presumably, you've got to excavate for the horizontal directional drilling pits. Where do you
Yes.
plan on staging the material that you excavate?
That material will typically be hauled off site and replaced with clean fill. For the trenching, I don't believe any of this is contaminated soil. I'm not sure what percentage they try to keep on site while they're trenching, while they're doing that work to backfill. But if they're not going to keep any stockpiles of soil on site overnight. They would take that either further outside the resource areas or dispose of it properly off site.
Okay, so if we have a condition that says you're not going to stockpile material within the resource area, that would be agreeable.
Absolutely. That's already one of National Grid's BMPs. So
okay. Feel
free to include that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, I like that, Chase, for these pits. I'm not worried about the trenching. It's these entrance and exit pits that will be there for, I'm going to assume, a few days.
Yeah.
A day when they're excavated, at least a day for the work, if not 2 days, and a day after that. So just to not cut you off, I want to piggyback on those pits, Chase, the security of them. Typically they're only 3 or 4 feet deep, but going to be open overnight, exposed to the public. Is this roadway being closed down? What's the plan for these pits?
So the entry and exit pits are typically 4 feet wide by 4 feet wide. And they will be closed at the end of each day. I'm not sure whether that's going to be done by a steel plate or whether they intend to. It probably would be something like a steel plate that's temporary that can be removed for work the next day. But all open trenches and all open excavation areas are closed at the end of each workday.
Did you say that the orange area across Mill Road, that's a new pipe, or is that replacing the existing?
It is replacing the existing, but so this orange is specifically where the horizontal directional drilling is going to occur. So that's going to be installed much deeper than the existing.
Is the existing going to be removed or left in place?
It will be left in place.
Is that standard practice?
That is standard practice. I believe, so gas lines are typically installed at least 12 inches, sometimes 24 inches below the surface. And where this culvert is quite near to the surface. So I don't have any photos of underneath the culvert, but I can only assume that it kind of runs through or is too shallow. But it would be quite invasive to try to remove it from that culvert and would require a lot of additional excavation to get the existing pipeline out. So typical practice is to clean and abandon the existing lines.
Okay, thank you.
Clean as in they're going to run something through the pipe. What's going to happen with the something that they run through and the residual that it takes out? Where's that going to end up?
That's a very good question. I don't know.
I would imagine nowhere near here, right? Where they access it.
Oh, I wasn't worried about that. I was more making sure that, and they do this all the time, but, that they're gonna have to run some water or something, corrosive something through to get them cleaned out and collect it on one end or the other. That's what I was really driving toward.
Right. And I guess I assume that point where they're starting or finishing is not going to be at these pits or something. The line is much longer than this segment right here, right?
The line is much longer, goes up through King Street as well. That's a very
worth.
Yeah, that's an interesting question, and I will see if I can get an answer for that for the next meeting.
Did you say they were going 5 feet below the culvert?
Yeah, it should be 5 feet below the footings of the culvert,
Okay,
so that they're not disturbing the culvert itself.
right, yeah, it's not gonna be a problem.
Yeah, I've seen them do this with much older looking and much more stone, much older bridges than this culvert looks.
Hmm.
Again, that's the culvert that we got.
Carolyn, would you mind to go down to, I think it's PDF page 47, the dewatering bag?
Yeah.
So talk me through when we would need this dewatering bag, and in the event that it's needed, where are we actually going to deploy this?
Similar to where staging is typically needed, that's not determined until when it is actually needed, the time of construction, but this is typically used as a backup in case there's a lot of rain during the trenching process. So not for the entry and exit pit so much, but for the trenching that's done for the rest of the gas main replacements. If there's a lot of rain, high water table one day, some water gets in that they need to remove, that's when they would deploy a dewatering bag. And they typically, they always put this in upland areas that are flat. If they don't deploy a bag such as this, they will put it into a truck and take it off-site to be disposed of. Okay,
but if we need to deploy this bag, it'll be deployed in upland areas outside of the resource area? Upland and flat, yes. Okay. And so that they're not discharging directly into any water bodies. That's what I'm looking for. Yep. Or any storm drains that aren't aligned. And I guess that's what you said was all of the work will occur within the footprint of the road. And really what I was looking for here is I don't want this sitting on the road, just discharging right into the storm drain and then discharging right into mill pond. No, not typically. And if there were any storm drains nearby, it would be lined with silt sacks. Sure. Next, entirely unrelated question. It appears, at least in what we have online, Carolyn, that we don't have a waiver from you. To the extent that that's correct, we will need a waiver for work within the 50-foot no disturb zone. My presumption is that would be a triviality here, given the public interest exception. I thought I submitted that online through the website. I wonder if it didn't go through.
You can fill it in online, but you can't submit it online. You would have to print it. Yeah, it's a little misleading. And yeah, sorry, Chase, I didn't catch that. So hopefully you still have it and can.
I do, and I can email that right over to you after this meeting.
Yeah.
To be clear, I'm not worried about the applicability of the waiver here. I just want to make sure we've got our house in order administratively.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, thank you for
you don't say something crazy on the waiver, I guess. I guess leave that slight possibility open.
Should be exactly what we have here in the NOI, but I will double check that and I'll send it over to you, Amy.
Thank you.
Okay, commissioners, any other comments or questions? Okay, I'm seeing shaking heads no here. So
sorry,
we don't have
Chase, I was trying to
oh yeah, go ahead.
Going through the narrative again a little bit more here. And Carol, maybe you can clarify this at the next meeting, but the narrative does say that the pits are 45 feet by 10 feet.
I think that's just generally.
It says the exit pit will require a work area of approximately 45 by 10.
That's where the staging and the some of the equipment will sit within the erosion controls. Okay. So the only areas of excavation are about 4 by 4.
That's my recollection with this work as well. So I just wanted to clarify. That seemed very large, but okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I don't have anything else, Chase.
The only other thing I had that I wanted to discuss is whether or not we should ask the applicant to use biodegradable hydraulic fluids and fuels to the extent possible and practical, given that we're sitting right on top of Mill Pond here. I would expect in a scenario like this, that's not universally viable. Some of the high pressure hydraulics don't work very well with biodegradable hydraulic fluids, but to the extent it's possible, it may make sense here given the proximity.
Well,
Guess
I
have
was
any
asking
thoughts on that?
about what they used to clean out the old pipe also.
Yeah, I can definitely take that question back to the team, whether or not biodegradable fluids and fuels can be used if they're available, and how they clean the pipes.
Yep.
And I'll make a note of the condition for the stockpiled soil not to be within resource areas, and I will also get the waiver for Amy. That's my summary of notes.
I appreciate it because I was about to run through the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Anyone have anything else to add to Carolyn's list? Okay. Then, Carolyn, if you're okay with it, we'll continue you to December 5th. And I guess in the event that we don't have a mass DEP number on December 5th, we may just push you out 2 more weeks. At that point, there's probably not a ton of points getting back together, but we can check in real quick and then move on if we have to.
That sounds good to me. I will be away, so I'll have someone else from BSC covering the December 5th meeting.
Okay.
And if it does get pushed to December 19th, that's going to
I'll be back.
That's going to be in person.
It's okay. My parents live in Harvard, so it's always a good
Okay.
excuse to visit.
Very good. Okay. Thank you, Carol.
Thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Okay, it is 8:20. We're going to open up the notice of intent for 69, reopen the notice of intent for 69 Mattawanakee, repair replacement of a boat shed. And let's see, who have we got? Okay, we've got Sal here.
Yeah, Sal's the contractor and the owner is Karen. There she goes.
Okay. So,
Hello.
hello, Karen. Thanks
I
for
don't
waiting
s-
on us here.
Can you see me?
We cannot see you. We can hear you, though.
Oh God, this is why I get on. I'm pointing my finger. This is why I get on early to try to work this. Now I saw myself on the camera a little while ago, so crap.
We can probably manage. You can see us, though, right?
Yeah, but this
And if
I talk with my hands and it didn't work the last time.
no worries.
So there we go. Maybe that's it. Is that it? No, that's not it. This is why I get on early, just to get this squared away. All right. Well, I don't know. Is Sal on
let's see
with the
what we can
video?
do. Yep, we've got Sal here. Sal,
Okay.
can you unmute yourself? Are you able to do that?
Oh, there we go. Can you hear Sal? He's
Cannot hear Sal.
He's still muted.
not muted. I'm on the phone with him
Yeah,
because this has been going on for the whole time.
Sal, if you go to the bottom left of your
Here.
screen, there should be.
There we go.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me?
Oh, good.
Yeah, there
Yes,
you
we
are.
can.
So.
Okay.
Okay. Sal or Karen, if you guys want to update us on where we are relative to the last time we discussed this, there were a few things that had come up with respect to erosion control, scope of work, and access.
Well, I sent Amy a revised update on a letter saying that we were going to be hand carrying or wheelbarrowing all the material out into a dumpster. The demo company would be using sawzalls and or demo picks to take things apart and to cut them into pieces that they can move. And after they're done, that's a one-day event and the dumpster will be taken away. The material is going to be dropped. I sent a sketch. There was a plans on the down in the town, and I indicated where the dumpster location would be, it'd be along the property line of Karen's neighbor and her property. And it's,
About
I don't know if you
75
have
feet.
that.
And I don't probably, we did get it, and I went back and forth with Sal a little bit, and it did not get posted somehow, so I don't have access to it. But I will share the old one.
Is this different than the one you emailed to the
Yeah,
commission?
say, Amy, we can
It's-
share it.
it-
I have it up if you really need it.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, it just didn't get onto the website, I guess, after we shared it with you.
That's okay. We've all received it in our email in any case.
Okay.
There you
There it is. Yeah, so we would be roughly in that location, and that's where the material would be dropped off, and that would be hand carried down to the structure, and the concrete, or the guys doing all the brickwork and the gravel, where the on the side of the boathouse where they're digging, that will be all wheelbarrowed over. And there's one of the issues with the boathouse is that there's not enough drainage around there. That's why the block, the CMU block, is kind of bowing in, and it gets pushed when it gets frozen. So, and then the yellow line is roughly where we would have the erosion control, and that can go all the way up to the dumpster. So if you have any questions or direction you would like us to go in.
The only thing I'll add here is it's my understanding that Karen and Amy have exchanged some messages about getting the abutters permission. We have the abutters verbal permission, and I'll say I'm comfortable going forward without anything more than that, as long as the applicant understands that should the abutter choose to prohibit the use of their property, that's on them. And it would require the applicant to come back in and re-permit this in a
Okay,
revised way.
can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Karen.
Okay, because all I can see now is the diagram. Yeah, I would appreciate that. There was a glitch today. Oh God! And I'm going to tell you the whole story. I've called a couple of times, and my neighbor, who has been a widow for over 20 years and gives all her stuff to her brother, the attorney, decided that because the Conservation Commission was asking for something, it should go, and she has to sign something. She said, sign something. He decided he better not sign until he sees everything. So I'm in a hold patent for that. But I swear to you, I will not use her driveway, because now I'd be trespassing. So that absolutely we won't do that. But I think I can square it away. Chase, please don't take this offensively, but the request, and maybe it was the way I transmitted it, sounded like the Conservation Commission was putting liability on her property for the drainage, for the mitigations. And, you know, I know that it's all on me if anything happened, you know, to the lake, you know, that you're watching the lake, but anything that happened would be me, because this is our project, John and my project. So I know that. I told her that. But I think I might ask Amy or you guys to send a letter to her that she can send to her brother that says she's not liable for anything other than, you know, anything. And that I'm liable if something, you know, I've assured her, and I will write a document that says I'm liable if the contractors hurt the driveway, and we do the
I'm not sure, Karen, that the town can send a letter waiving liability there. It's not that we see any, it's just that it's not our place to do so.
I know.
But what we can say is our concern here, my concern.
Oh, wait a second. Let me make you louder. Sal's on the other line, and I have a delay. Okay, go. Say it again.
What I will say though, and this is what you can convey to the abutting property owner, is that what we don't want to do is be in a position of permitting work on someone else's property. And what we wanted to do was make sure that they were aware that this work would be permitted in part on their property. And that's really all we were looking for. We're not trying to really, no one's worried about liability in any context here.
And I tried very hard to relate that. I did. It's all on me. There's nothing, and the lawyer thinks he knows more about conservation than God. So, I'm really in a little bit of a bind here, but I will work it out, because
okay.
if I want your permission to do at least the demolition. If I can't use your property, I've talked to Sal about, can the people take the stuff out of the garage. There's not enough stuff in there to worry about, but coming up my stairs, over the hill and down again, and we won't use your property. And then I would like the roof to be at a minimum caved in, so it doesn't fall on somebody's dog, on some, when the snow comes. So that's my biggest concern. If we have to wait till spring because I have to work all this out, that's fine. But as Mr. Livingston saw, it is a dangerous situation with the beams folding in, and I just need to know that it's safe. And I waited through the whole pandemic. We were supposed to get it done before the pandemic, when it was only 3 rafters and the walls were fine. So needless to say, I'm already at twice the price right here. So yeah, if that sounds good to you, I'd really appreciate it, because if we don't.
I can't speak for the entire commission, but I can speak for myself, and I raised this issue to start with. I'm comfortable going forward with the understanding that if your neighbor decides not to allow you to utilize that property, you may need to come back to us and have the order of conditions modified in some way.
I absolutely agree with you. And I was sort of like taken by surprise by your request, Mr. Gerber, but after I thought about it, I thought, well, that's a good thing, for the town is growing. And so even though Mary and I have been here for 40 plus years, and this was always a handshake for, a ladies' agreement, so to speak, it's probably a good, and I just never had it before in all the different times I've come before the Conservation Commission. So I'm okay with that, but it just, I know Mary, and I knew this was going to be iffy, and it turned out to be more iffy than I ever expected. So we'll get there, I'm sure. If not as long as I can get. Yeah, thank you. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Thank you very much.
And there is a DEP file number on here with no comments.
No comments. Okay. Other commissioners, any other comments based on the revised plan that was circulated to us 6 days ago?
Mr. Livingston, you shook your head up and down when I said something about the safety. So if you would, that's all I care about. So.
Yeah, no, I understand completely. And from what I saw, the new plan looks great.
Good. Thank you.
Michael, maybe you want to give us a motion? Oh, what's the Mass DEP file number though, Amy?
204994.
Right, then I'll move to approve the notice of intent for 69 Mattawanakee, Mass DEP 204
994.
994.
Second.
All right, roll call vote. Ed.
Ed votes aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gervig, aye.
Michael.
Michael Livingston, aye.
Carl.
Tom Elber guy.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
Thank you so much.
Good luck, Karen.
Thank you, guys.
You will have conditions. Karen, check in with Amy, and she'll walk you through what those conditions are and all that.
Thank you. Yep. No problem.
Okay. Good luck. Okay, it is now 8:32. Almost as good as Sarah here. Only 2 minutes behind. I'm going to open up the notice of intent for Cloverdale Conservation Land, Phragmites Management. Amy, I think that's probably you, huh?
That is me. So. All right, my screen suddenly got tiny, but can you see that? I can't, but I assume so. This is for controlling Phragmites over at the Cloverdale Conservation Area. The picture on top kind of shows what some of the Phragmites out there looks like in the winter, especially when it's a very dense mat that just kills everything underneath it. And the photo underneath it is what the native natural areas in Cloverdale look like. And I've kind of been watching those Phragmites patches for a while, and they just seem to be kind of exploding. So I got a grant from SISMA to look at the Phragmites and determine, it's gonna be hard to see, determine a management plan. And if you can see this, Land Stewardship Inc. Mapped all these red striped patches. I think there's about a dozen of them of Phragmites. It's about 1.5 acres. So right now they're fairly discrete patches, but they are really starting to encroach a lot on Cloverdale. And as part of their findings, they said really with Phragmites, as I think you're probably all aware, other than trying to totally dig them out, which is just really not acceptable here in a wetland, would be using herbicides for it. So they came up with the management plan, which includes, if we can get the funding lined up, a prep cut this winter, when they can get out there when the ground's frozen. The first foliar spray probably before June 30th, depending on how the funding goes, and then up to 3 years of additional applications, very similar to what is happening over at Brown's Woods. And I think they say they expect 95% control of it by the end of the second or third year. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Because this adds up to over 1 acre, this has been submitted as a ecological restoration notice of intent, which meant it had to be advertised in the environmental monitor with MIPA, and that's been done. So that's all squared away. And again, no DEP file number yet.
What's the method, Amy? If you stay on figure 4 here, what's the method for accessing those areas? Just
they walk in.
Walk in.
Yeah. I got Tim and I approached 3 different firms to get scopes for this. Land Stewardship not only was also the cheapest, but they also weren't going to use equipment to get in there, even the fat tired stuff that's made to drive, marsh buggy type things. So it'd be very low impact that way.
Okay. So walk in backpack sprayers.
Exactly. Very targeted. They, if the winds, I forget what is it 5 miles? I forget what the wind speed, if the winds are up, they don't go. If it's going to rain within 24 hours, they don't go.
Yeah, it was 5 miles an hour.
Yeah. Thank you.
Amy, I know we've had issues with the butters in the past at this property. Did they need to be made aware of this, or?
I sent certified mail to everybody around the whole thing.
Right.
And I have not gotten any comments back. I think it's a good thing we're continuing till at least December 5th to give more people time to pick up their mail, basically. And like I said, I don't have a DEP number anyway.
Any other comments from the commission?
Yeah.
No, I fully support it. I think it's great.
Yep. Yeah, looking forward to pushing this forward.
More Phragmites we can get rid of, the better.
Absolutely.
So where it's standing right now is we have a grant application into Mass Fish and Wildlife for habitat management, which is a really fast moving, unusual grant that we hope to hear by the end of this year, and the money has to be spent by June 30th, which is why we might be pushing to get the prep cut this winter. If we don't get that grant, I'm going to see if LELWD, here in this map, And their community grants might be willing to fund at least the prep cut piece of it. And then I can push the first spray till July 1st and get a different budget that way. And probably, Andrew, go to CPC for funding for some of that too.
When we do that prep cut, Amy, where does the waste go?
Right, it stays in place.
Stays in place. Okay. All these different invasives. I don't know which ones can stay, which ones have to be hauled out.
Yeah, I mean, theoretically, the dead Phragmites has pretty, and Carl, I know you might more about this, been shown that it is not the reed stems, the stalks. They're not going to sprout. It's always coming out of the rhizomes. So if you're digging it up, that's when you got to be careful.
Okay. One last comment here. When we're doing this, we should probably put like a notice on the board at Cloverdale so folks utilizing the property know what's going on too.
Yeah, there's a picture of the map with the Phragmites on it. In the kiosk, it's been there since. And yeah, we definitely would put that up there. And potentially use it as a weed warrior thing. Field trip in the summer also for people to see what's going on.
Good.
And
Okay.
at this point, well, let me think about this. Yeah, frankly, since we don't have the DEP number and it's only a week away, maybe just continue this right to the 19th.
That's what I was wondering. I mean,
Yeah.
We're just going to kick the can down the road, and this isn't something that's on a short time cycle either. So,
Well, no, because they would do the prep cut in January or February. So we got time.
okay.
And I will also say that finally the state signed the 88 trail grant. And the contract with Green International, who's going to do the engineering on that, is going out tomorrow, I think. So once that gets going, hopefully by, I don't know, February or March, you'll see a notice of intent for that piece of work also.
Okay. What would the timing of that work be, and how would it sort of dovetail with the Phragmites control?
They wouldn't impact each other at all. Right now, I've been talking to Steve Yonley of probably scheduling the work on the 88 trail for, fall, something like that. But if they get really busy, we did get an extra year on the grant because it took so long for them to approve it. So it could even go into 2025. I hope to get this done by 2024 though.
Okay.
By the end of.
Okay. So, you'd like to continue this to our December 19th meeting?
Yeah, I think so. Yes.
Okay. December 19th. Okay. Very good. Any other comments before we move on from this one? Okay. Very good. Okay. So next up on our agenda is, sorry, I lost the agenda here, is the notice of intent Littleton water supply connection, Wickham Ave and Taylor Street. Last time we met, I had indicated to you that the town of Boxborough, who benefits from this project, is a client of mine professionally. I checked in with town council, and although neither town council nor I sees a conflict of interest in this, Tom's advice was, yeah, but there could be the appearance of a conflict, and life is probably better if you just avoid even the appearance of a conflict. So what I'm going to do is recuse myself from this. But before we get into this particular matter, I want to make sure it's clear that makes the remaining 4 members that are going to be able to vote on this very important, because if we lose one more member, not theoretically, we have to start back over at the beginning. So we anticipate Andrew will end up missing 2 meetings, Sarah will miss 2 meetings, and I will recuse myself. So that means Ed, Kyle, Michael, and Carl, we're going to need you to make sure to let us know when this is on the agenda if it needs if for some reason you're not going to be able to be there, because we may need to shift things around, as you'll be the only 4 voting members. That also means that none of y'all can go anywhere until we get this permitted. So
Yeah, good luck with that.
So with that, I'm not sure which one of the 4 of you wants to run this portion of the meeting, but I will recuse myself and let someone else run it.
So Chase, I was actually just about to recuse myself because my brother works for the water department. So it'll have to be somebody else.
I thought we had agreed that you don't have to recuse yourself because your brother works for the water department.
I did check with the state afterwards, and they did mention that it would be better to avoid voting in any matters or participating in any matters having to do with the water department, unless I did file something every time we had a hearing.
So against the appearance of impropriety.
Exactly. It's better to perhaps not participate.
Nonetheless, that'll still leave us with 4 members who can vote, because we're anticipating Andrew wouldn't be able to vote anyway as a
since you might miss the 19th.
He was going to miss 2 meetings. So okay, so it's neither me nor Andrew, so have fun, guys.
You can't participate in conversation either, I guess. I thought.
I mean, it's very much my intention to sit here and listen as a member of the public, but I don't intend to participate in the conversation either.
Okay. All right, then we'll step in and ask who's here to discuss this project. We'll come out to Taylor Street.
Great. Thank you very much. Tara McManus with Weston and Sampson. I've got Jordan Folds and Alexander Gaspar with me as well from Weston and Sampson, and then Matt Silverman from Littleton Electric Light Water Department. And just want to kind of regroup a little bit on our project. We did have a site walk with Conservation yesterday morning. We had staked out last week the limits of work area in many cases along more or less the access road that was requested from the last meeting. We also staked out the access pits and the hydrants that are located around Route 2. And then we more or less walked the entire route from the entrance at Amazon property through to the well site, and then went up towards the Route 2 area where we're going to follow the water main path. So I think it's a lot easier to understand exactly the limits of the work, certainly once you get out there and physically see some of the flagging as well as the stakes we had installed out there. So hopefully the commissioner members that were out there, I think last Friday as well as on Monday, have a little bit better understanding of what we're trying to accomplish here. So there was several different discussion points that we had. We are working on an existing contour map to kind of show a little bit easier where our limits of work are compared to the existing layouts. That was one of the requests while we were on site yesterday. We're also working on just kind of clarifying a little bit. There was discussion of potentially moving some gate valves, adjusting hydrants a little bit to move away from wetlands. We just need to meet with the water department just to kind of talk through where we'd like to propose those new locations and make sure they're okay with it. And then we'll be submitting an updated plan to the commission for that. I think some of the other concerns that everybody had was the directional drill. Obviously, you just heard the presentation by the gas company about the gas company's upgrades. We do not anticipate any kind of concerns with any frack out, but we did provide a frack out plan to MISA, so they have that in hand. We can certainly provide that to the commission if that's something that you're interested in. All construction projects, when we're dealing with directional drill, are required to have contingency plans for any kind of, frack out or any other kind of contamination or issues or concerns. But again, typically not something that we would see, and certainly not something we anticipate for this project either. Some other discussion points were as far as locating. We understand that the last set of plans that were sent over, unfortunately, when they added my PE stamp and some upgrades that we had with our computer drafting program, deleted all of the existing contours. So it was very difficult to see, and I noticed that right before we started our meeting. So we did send in revised plans that are much easier to understand the access road and at least follow the contouring and certainly our overflow stormwater basin for our infiltration basin and some of the other details that unfortunately we did lose during the conversion. So hopefully the plans are a little bit easier to read at this point as well. So I kind of just wanted to open it up to the commission because we didn't really go through a lot of questions last time. We knew that there would need to be a site walk and then kind of a little bit further discussion with Amy on exactly, what concerns might be coming up. I think that, just to be very clear, we are looking to open cut and backfill, very standard procedure for all utility projects. Backfilling, compacting at the end of each day, no open trenches are allowed. They will 100% be monitoring the erosion and sediment control measures. We do have our own wetland scientists that typically go out before and after storm events just to monitor and make sure all the erosion controls and sediment controls are in place. If we do have any concerns with high groundwater table, we typically for water main, we're around 5 feet deep or so. If we do have any groundwater, there is details that are contained in our plans and specifications as far as dewatering is concerned. There's pretty standard practices that we've called out for our contractor. And I think that that's just more of a clarification for the commission because we didn't include all of our specifications, but we do have some contingency plans for any kind of concerns that we have. As far as MESA, we obviously have some turtle habitat. The concern there would be just whatever requirements as far as constructability during mating season, and we're very prepared to construct the work within the MESA habitat areas outside of any kind of turtle habitat concerns. We're just waiting for that letter to be issued. We did forward a initial correspondence over to Amy, I believe yesterday or today. We're waiting for a final with our MEPA process, a final issuance of determination from MESA anyway, as that goes. So that was filed with them several months back, and we just followed up with, as I said before, our frac plan and our cross section for our directional drill, which was one of the requests that they had. So we're anticipating submittal of the final comments to MEPA in the next few days. And from that point, we're anticipating, an issuance of a MEPA certificate in the future, as well as close out of many of our other permits that are hinging on the MEPA certificate being issued. So I think that covers most of it, but I just kind of want to open it up to the commission and answer some questions. And I know we're on a limited basis for those that are asking questions today.
Would anybody like to jump in? If not, I'll start. One of our favorite topics, and I don't know how early you were in on our meeting this morning, but we have a tree policy that we're actively working on bringing into place for areas within our land, protected land areas. So as far as this access road that I'm looking at and the actual well area, treatment building, I assume you put it in where it needed to go, but has there been any sort of a tree survey or any sort of tree survey performed, I guess is my question.
We have not, and Amy did bring that up during our walk yesterday, that might be a requirement.
I'm sure don't want to speak for Carl, but I know he would love to see one, as would I, of trees that will be required to be removed.
Yep. I 100% agree. Minimize the amount of trees that are impacted if possible. And as Kyle said, I identify all trees that are supposed to be impacted.
Does 8-inch DBH sound about right?
Yeah.
8-inch and over.
That sounds good.
And Tara, are you also looking or double checking whether or not the cross country part that's parallel to DOT, if that's outside of the I know it's sort of under the tree line, but is it in the mode area? Have you been on confirm?
Yeah, we can that's one of the parts that we were just going to discuss a little bit with Littleton tomorrow, the water department, excuse me.
All right, yep.
Can you lay out real quick? You mentioned the MEPA and protective turtle habitats. Whereabouts are those areas in relation to what regard to the work you're performing? Is it at the well site or the basin area?
So I think it's and Jordan or Alex, I don't know if you have the environmental receptors map that we could just pull up, but if it has any of the habitat locations or if you have the mapping for that.
Yeah, I can share
with the map. When we went out there to do the pumping test, which is pretty much where the well is, we ran the discharge pipe. This is a couple years back when we permitted that through conservation. It's pretty much most of the the area, but we're trying to hug the land closest to Amazon and the land closest to Route 2.
Right. Sorry, I remember seeing this now and seeing Amazon have to deal with this as well. So.
Yes. It's kind of the whole area. But...
Yeah.
And Monarch.
Right. Michael, you were out on site. Do you have any other comments or concerns that you may have discussed while you were out there?
I'm just curious again about the turtle habitat. Is the concern for construction only, or is it for changing their habitat by doing the pumping?
As far as so when we do a installation of a new well or new water source, the impacts of the groundwater table or any of that is actually analyzed pretty detailed. Not the hydrogeologist that performed any of that work, but we definitely were not anticipating any impacts to the elevation of Beaver Brook out there or any other concerns with the wetlands themselves. I think it's more on the turtle habitats as far as that's concerned. Is typically an excavator coming through, especially if you did some construction during, mating season or hatching season, that you're not running them over and certainly can having a concern with that. But this new source is not going to be impacting their habitat.
Okay, it's definitely a newbie question, but I live on Forge Pond and we have to worry about the turtles too. So.
Yep, you got some ponds. There's lots of turtles usually around there. So.
Yeah, for something like this, it's a very typical requirement from Natural Heritage that there either be sort of a turtle exclusion fence that goes up before they start moving around in the spring, so they can't get into the construction area, and daily turtle sweeps just to make sure they're not getting over the erosion controls.
I'd like to see that.
And this won't have any effect on them after it's done going forward then?
The only permanent structures that we're installing that are, everything is below ground, the majority of the water main itself. Obviously, there is going to be a permanent access road, and then there's going to be the actual well building itself and some other small, like propane tanks and a transformer and some other things right around the well station. But, they should have full access to walk around. No other major concerns there.
And that's what Natural Heritage determines whether or not there's a take.
Yep.
And usually it's this mitigation that lets them determine that it's not a take.
Hey, Amy, have we ever had a turtle monitor on site, like to go in front of the equipment as it's moving?
I can't remember if Amazon has some serious turtle exclusion fences. They had double rows, if I recall. And Monarch, Oxbow was out there a lot because that's where they were nesting in the sandy area behind Monarch. That's the almost 5-acre mitigation area that Monarch was doing for the turtle nesting. So they also had the turtle exclusion fences up. So I think more commonly it's, someone walks through in the morning, and then there's sort of an educational thing. So the contractors know if they see a turtle, don't necessarily pick it up, or what to do if they find one. But that's something Natural Heritage lays out. And you would not be able to issue the order of conditions until Natural Heritage has issued their permit anyway. And Tara, are you doing a single EIR?
Yes.
And that's been submitted?
That is actually in the process of being submitted.
Oh, that's okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
What's the time frame on that?
We're going to hopefully have the draft to Water Department this week for review.
Oh, okay.
This is a new well? Yes?
Yes. The well itself is actually in the ground, but it's construction of the new structure around it and actually setting it up as an actual drinking water source.
So there's already some kind of access road in place?
There is. It doesn't line up perfectly with an Amazon easement. So we're actually going through, and the way that we designed the road from the Amazon property into Littleton's property is actually equidistant from the two wetlands on both sides of the road. And it is parallel with an existing about 10-foot or 12-foot wide access road that was created 20, 30 years ago when the well was constructed. Maybe even, I think it was the 80s actually. So
Not gravel or some other permeable?
the proposed access road is going to be paved for access daily by the water department. And certainly because of the need to be accessing during wintertime, easier for plowing and less erosion concerns with that.
Yeah. And they won't be using any kind of, well, I don't know what they'll be using for the ice.
No, I mean, especially with the drinking water source, number one, within 400 feet, there's absolutely no use of salt products or anything, but being that close proximity in many areas of certainly habitat and other environmental receptors, we certainly would be using that.
These may be stupid questions. I've only been on a short time.
Well,
No,
and,
no worries.
and I don't know, because Ed, you weren't here for the last meeting. It's worth throwing up, sheet 105 or something like that, just to kind of to give an overview. And I will also say that the planning board did ask for a third-party review on the stormwater parts of this, and they're being signed up now. And I don't know if they would have their first comments back by the 19th, let alone Weston Sampson's responses to comments. DEP did have several comments on kind of general stormwater type stuff that would need responses.
Yeah, we just got that. I got it in my inbox this morning. So from the DEP comments, we do have a file number. That was one thing I forgot to mention, 0995. So this is kind of if everybody can see it, layout of the proposed access road coming in. This is more of the major concern areas. Obviously, the well is down here where the building is located. We do need to encapsulate the well with the building, so that structure is a permanent location. And then we have the access road coming in. This was the wetland flagging area that was of concern on the site walk yesterday as well, and brought up during the meeting previously, of just adjusting the location of the hydrant, maybe pushing the water main a little bit further. But the roadway kind of comes in here, then you kind of go up gradient. This is what was not on the plans last time because we didn't have any contouring on it, but this is going to be our infiltration basin. And then you kind of go out here and past the tree line, and then you pretty much enter into Amazon's property and serpentine through to get to their roadway.
I'm glad you mentioned the infiltration basin. Can you walk me through that a little bit on what will be feeding that? Is it just some swales along the access road? Just describe what that's designed for.
Yes, our stormwater group installed this as a BMP. This is more or less taking the majority of the roadway, runoff, kind of coming through here. And then as far as, as we get a little bit closer this way, the intent is to kind of have it come off away from the wetlands on this side here. You can see my cursor, and then kind of go this way. But the majority of the runoff from the road coming in, the intent would be to have it come off into this location.
And that's just going to be a grass lined? Is there some sort of a mix, seed mix for that in place?
Yes, and I guess the question really, typically we would try to keep that as native grass seed. And if there's anything specific that the commission is particular to, we can certainly discuss that as well.
Yeah, I would defer to Amy's recommendations there. I'm sure we have something in mind.
Yeah, I mean, if it was out in the sunlight, might want to try and get some pollinators, but this is going to be all shadows. I think native grasses and forbs would be the way to go. And depending on how you feel about the trees being removed, there might be room for some shrubs on the berm, but you got to be careful with those on a berm.
Anybody else have any other comments or questions here? So what is the construction schedule looking like? We have a little bit to go here to get through the permitting process, but what's the anticipated timeline?
Yeah, so we, at this point, it is state revolving fund funded through Mass DEP. The intent is to go out to bid this spring, potentially award contracts this summer, and then start construction shortly thereafter. So likely not going to be until fall of 2024. This project is pretty significant. There's also the finished water main portion of it that's going into Boxborough. It's a separate bid project, but the raw water main that goes up to Whitcomb Ave to the treatment plant, all of that work is including all of the purchase and installation of the equipment for the well. We're anticipating roughly about 1.5 years for the full duration. But as far as the utility work goes, that can be done pretty much in the winter time. No concerns there. So it'll be probably applicable for the turtle habitat at least.
Thank you.
So you're going to be heavy into construction right around the rainy season. Then.
Well, I guess if we consider rainy season July now, based on this past year, but yeah, I mean.
Oh, I thought you said you were going to be like September, October.
That's the start of potential construction. And then we'll just go for, 1.5 years, and depending on what the restrictions might be by MESA, or if we just are able to go forward with installation of some fencing to keep the turtles out. But yeah, I mean, there's, the prediction on rain, we have a drought one year and we have extreme weather events the other. So, but yeah, we'll be under construction for quite a while.
So to tie into that, is there a sequence you go in and drill the well, construct the building first and work that way, or you laying pipe, or you working at both ends and meeting in the middle? Is there any sort of sequence in plan?
Typically the general contractor will be in charge of kind of hiring different subcontractors. As far as the building is concerned, that's usually a different grouping of contractors than the actual pipeline utility work. So you'd usually see at least 2 different contractors working out there, but under the umbrella of one bid project. So I would anticipate seeing, one contractor, or if not 2 crews working on construction. We would also have a directional drill contractor. There's very specific companies that do that work. So that would probably be another utility contractor that would coordinate with the pipeline contractor that would be doing the rest of the water main work. But as far as, the foundation, I would anticipate they would try to build the foundation for this well over the winter, and then start stick building up from there next 2025 spring of that, probably getting into walls and vertical construction. And then as far as the foundations for the propane tanks and a couple other items out there for the transformer. But yeah, I mean, we'll have electrical conduits going in to bring power from Amazon, basically that down it's at full access road in. And then the pipeline for the water main work will go up a different route. So all the utility work would be installed in the ground typically before we actually go through and build the roadway as far as final paving goes.
So with the project going as long as it will be, you're going to have a real challenge with storage of supplies and getting rid of any of the stuff you dig out and all that, right?
So for a job like this, there's not too much work that we're going to be carrying offsite as far as soils go. The spoils, if there are any, they would certainly be trucked offsite typically on a daily basis, or at the very least stockpiled exterior of the resource areas. As far as the roadway goes, it is going to be some decent contouring out there. That'll probably be leveled first as we start to go through with the first clearing, then leveling, and then the digging for the installation of the actual pipeline. But I think we mentioned it yesterday at the site walk. I mean, a good contractor can get in several hundred feet of pipeline a day. I'm not too concerned about, having an extensive area open. It's just more of, making sure certain areas are stabilized, and that's one thing that we just want to make sure we're focused on with the contractor. And keeping an eye on that. But there really shouldn't be too many spoils or any kind of concerns with that. And stockpile of material, sorry to get to your first part of that. We'll probably have some laydown areas and the actual easement leading up to this this sheet here. That's kind of more in the open area, or if there's any requirements that MISA has as far as where the turtles might be headed, the contractor is just going to have to create a laydown area on their own somewhere outside on a private property, or something that's offered by the Littleton Electric Light and Water Department. And as far as the roadway work, usually they just lay it down on the side of the road, have a couple sticks of pipe out as they go, and then install it and call it a day. That stretch kind of going up Whitcomb Ave, we're not anticipating to take too long. That'll probably be, several weeks, and then we just need to do some tie-ins, existing tie-ins.
There's a lot of different elements here, so I don't want things coming up late. We have had recently some issues with staging areas that are thrown down at the last minute. So I don't know if the conservation either some sort of condition, or once they know where they want to do their lay down and stockpiling, come back and at least let us know, rather than suddenly finding it basically 2 feet off of wetland, because that'll be concerned. And I also keep forgetting about the work you're doing in Whitcomb, and you're crossing, I think, 2 culverts. Do you know, are you going over, under those?
It's a good question, because I haven't really paid attention to Whitcomb after all of this cross-country area.
Exactly.
So I think that we do have inverts for, I think there's one RCP. If it's, if we have enough cover, we go over. But if we typically try to get 5 feet of cover, and we'll go under. I think that they're pretty, I think one was a 12-inch diameter, maybe. Not too concerned about those. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick.
Yeah, this one's a 12-inchers.
But you don't think you'll have to jump off and go around? It'll be over, under, within the road?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm trying to just figure out where the actual culvert itself, or you're just calling a drain pipe, or was it? There's just catch basin connections in a couple spots. Yeah, I thought it was just drain lines.
All right, yeah, then it's not an issue.
Yeah. There's a culvert on the finished water main job, but that's in Boxborough. So.
Anybody else have anything else, especially pertaining to how the site walk went yesterday? If not, I imagine we'll be talking again soon. Amy, probably not. I know our next meeting is the 5th, but we'll be ready to discuss this more at that point, or will we push back to the 19th?
I guess I'm thinking I don't know if it's even beneficial to have a meeting next week. I don't think we're going to be able to get out there we will not be able to get out there to finish any kind of tree survey by next week. I think the only thing that we were considering submitting before then would be the existing conditions plan. I'm not really sure if that's going to make too much of a difference to the commission right now on their determination. But
if the existing conditions plan also has a limit of work overlaid on it, and the tree survey, that might be worth doing that all at once.
Yeah, I feel like we're just sending you a plan every week, and it might be better to just kind of get a combined one with everything on it. And maybe by then we'll have our MISA information as well by the 19th. Matt, I don't want to speak for you, but next Tuesday seems a little short. And we don't have too much that we'll probably have wrapped up by then.
Yeah, 19th is good.
Okay, that makes sense.
And that's in person, so we're aware.
That's in person,
correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm just going to assume we might go into January. Are the meetings in 2024 in person? Or is it just this miscellaneous 19th meeting?
I believe it's just this one particular meeting at this time. We're trying to sprinkle in some in-person meetings as we move forward here. Sorry, I don't recall the 2024 schedule off the top of my head right now. But
well, the meetings are I think it's January 2 and 16, and I've been assuming Zoom, but
yeah, that's
you guys haven't discussed it.
Right.
would be better. All right, Kyle, I don't have anything more at the moment.
All right. If there's nothing else, we can let them go, and we'll see them again on the 19th.
Great. Appreciate everybody's time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Pick it up now. We've got 2 additional agenda items. Amy, did 18 Porter ask to continue, or are they?
Yes, he asked for continuance to the 19th, and he knows that'll be in person. He's still just trying to finalize the mitigation plan. This is for the huge deck that was after the fact.
So that brings us to our 905 abbreviated notice of intent 5 Caliva Road for removal of an existing shed and construction of deck and shed. Susan, are you here to speak to this?
I am. Can you
Uh-oh.
hear me?
Breaking in and out.
Hello?
That's
Hi, we can hear you now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, you were breaking up there, but go ahead.
I'm sorry.
You were breaking up, but now we can hear you. Go ahead and give us an update on where.
Hang on, let's start my video. I just got a prompt. Oh, excellent. I look amazing. Did Eric send you his plans?
No, I have not seen anything.
I think I just sent it to you, Susan.
Okay, I don't know how to share Eric. No. Okay. Let me hit share screen. Let me try. Okay. Eric, do you think you can talk to them about the measurements we have and kind of where we are with that after the flagging?
Yeah, so basically, 3 drawings. One was the old deck, the previous deck. One is the new deck, and one is the new shed. The one with the previous deck also has the existing shed that would like to remove, with all the setbacks from the flagging from the engineers.
Are either of you able to share these updated plans with us? The alternative here is that we could have you email them to Amy. She could post them on the website. We could take a look at them, continue this for 1 more week, and pick it up on December 5th.
That might make the best sense.
And we're gonna have to continue anyway. I just kind of wanted to like the flagman is the measurement, and so we can move forward with a plan. But if we can't, Amy, I just sent you the 2 I got from Eric.
I can't get into my work email and share those.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Susan, we tend to do a less effective job as commissioners when we're doing things on the fly. I think some folks like to study the things ahead of time a little bit. Yeah. So my preference would be if you're comfortable with it, continuing for a week.
Yeah, I think if we move it to the 5th, that would be
absolutely.
Good. Just before we go ahead and do that, I just had a couple questions because I'm new to this this particular project here. Are you requiring a DEP number for this job, or?
You have a
yes,
DEP,
and we have
that has one, right?
Yes.
You do have a number already?
Yes.
Yeah, it's 984. This has been on the agenda for a while, so that's all set. And they had to comment.
All right, so we need to make a sign and post that. Is that correct?
Once you get the permit.
Okay, so we haven't been issued yet. Okay. In the 5th, would it make sense to have a proposed deck drawing and a proposed stormwater mitigation plan.
More information is always better for us than less.
And if I recall, the biggest issue was the work in the 50-foot no disturb area.
Right, but we also heard issues with roof water that we certainly want to address, before we move forward. But we plan on, with the measurements we have now, we plan on, we can make a configuration of the deck that would fall, outside the 50-foot area. What it would do would leave the removal of the shed, which is now within the 50-foot area.
But what you're saying is that the revised construction would be entirely outside of the 50-foot?
Correct.
Okay. That probably makes, I would say that likely makes this more viable. Contingent upon the wetland flags being appropriately located. Amy, have you taken a look at those wetland flags?
Yeah, I forget. I met Tim and I met the guy out there who's doing the flag and confirmed the flag. So that's all good.
Okay. So yeah, Eric, I think to the extent that you can show us a proposed plan, particularly as it relates to the wetland and the 50 and 100-foot offsets from the wetland, that would be very, very helpful to us.
Okay, we can do that.
Keep in mind, we're going to ask you things like not just the footprint of the deck, but the extent of the work, the limits of the work. We're going to ask you where you propose to lay material down, how you propose to access an area. So we're not just looking at, does the deck go right to the edge of the 50-foot, but you would need to disturb an additional 20 feet into that to build it. That would be a different thing to us than not disturbing that area within the 50-foot. So when you put that together, keep in mind that we're going to ask you about sequencing, materials, laydown, and final construction.
Okay, and erosion control as well, or?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I don't know, others, did I miss anything in general that we're going to look at?
That sounded pretty good to me.
Okay. Eric, do you have any other questions that can help you prepare for the 5th?
I believe that's it right now. I've got Amy's email, so I can bother her if I need to. So I think I'm all set for the 5th, and we'll try and have everything ready for you guys at that point.
Sounds good. If you can certainly email things a couple days in advance so we can get them up on the website, that is good for us. It's also good for the public's ability to evaluate this.
Yeah, we'll try and get those out in a more timely fashion than this time.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. So we'll continue that to the 5th.
Thanks.
That brings us to the end of our agenda. Amy, anything else you wanted to cover here?
We were gonna just talk about the tree protection and continuing that to the 5th, which sounds like it might be kind of a light agenda. There's a bunch of certificates of compliance, but so you want to do that? Put the tree protection on the 5th?
I think that makes sense. I think having a dedicated agenda item, 15 minutes to focus on it, and potentially circulation of red line comments to the group. Just a reminder, there shouldn't be deliberation on those comments, but we can circulate the comments. I will say, though, that on the 5th, I don't think we would want to finalize anything on the 5th, even for, sending to town council. I'd really like to give Sarah an opportunity to weigh in on that as well. And she won't be able to until the 19th. So, but we can get it.
I'll send it over to the Shade Tree Committee and see if they want to either come on the 5th or another time or comment, or they won't have time before the 5th, I'm sure. See what they say.
Cool. Love it.
So Chase, I'm only going to ask this or bring it up because you asked one of the other applicants about pumping and discharging water, and I know I'm pretty sure we've had this conversation with, well, at least the water department, Corey probably. It's still, I only just because it's getting colder now, especially during the mornings and whatnot. They are actively working in center of town, I believe, right now, Stephen Street corner area, and they're in the groundwater and they are pumping water onto the road. I imagine that's going into a catch basin somewhere, headed to Long Lake at some point, I guess. Yeah, I'm just driving by in the morning and seeing water, or even at night in the evening, you can still see water everywhere on the road.
Where is this go?
I guess it would be kind of the corner of Goldsmith and King Street. It's that weird little intersection, Stevens Road.
Yeah, okay. Oh yeah, they had that closed for a while.
Yeah, so it's been closed every morning as they are working through there right now. I'm not sure. From what Corey said, they were going to be wrapping up construction in November. I'm sure they took advantage of the warmer weather while it was here, but it's not warm anymore. So I don't know when they will be calling it quits.
Amy, would you mind to add that to your punch list of things to run through with Corey tomorrow?
No problem. And would any of you have any issue if I offer to sit down with Weston and Sampson to go over their revisions ahead of time, and or somebody's welcome to join me too if they want to have a preview?
I'm okay with that.
That's any, that can only benefit us. I don't see how that can hurt anything.
Yeah.
I think it'll be good. They're coming in the 19th, and we'll have a set of plans in front of you to look at. There's a lot of moving parts. So,
general comment, not one specific to that particular project, but I do think we should think about some of these bigger projects, asking someone to sort of run point on them, and sort of divvy up responsibility. So, whether we want to do that with that particular issue or not, up to you. But in the future, it's something I've thought we might want to ask for a specific lead. Not that everyone gets to vote, blah blah blah, but there's a lot of.
I think it's a good idea, and I know the commission used to do it in the past, before I started. So, let's see, who's the old timer here, Carl?
Carl.
Old timer and Carl, that does go together.
Oh, speaking of which, Carl, I almost let you know, but you probably don't really care. I'm meeting Dan Bodelin, or whatever his name is, over at Snow Terrace, the entrance to Mary Shepherd. Apparently there's bamboo running rampant down there. So Tim and I are going to go over there Friday at noon just to see if there's anything can be done about it. I'm not sure what you do about bamboo, but if you care.
What time are you showing up?
Friday at noon.
I feel like we saw that when we way back when did a walkthrough there about creating the loop.
Yeah, because I think
somebody made a comment there.
It's going off the side, but I think which is where the trail is. If I remember, I think it's also going out the back. So.
Can we hire a panda?
They've all been shipped back to China.
Yeah, we don't have any anymore.
All right.
I think we're ready for a favorite motion of the night.
Amy, a quick question for Amy. This is off the. Well, I'll wait until we're adjourned.
The motion that we adjourn.
Second. All right. Roll call vote. Ed.
Ed Foltz, aye.
Kyle.
Kyle Maxfield, aye.
Michael.
Bill Livingston, aye.
Chase.
Chase Gerbig, aye.
Carl.
I'm over, guy.
And myself, aye. It's unanimous.
So,
What were you saying, Carl?